People who no longer speak to their childhood best friends. What happened? I realized that every time we'd spoken in the last several months, I had been the one to start the conversation. I decided to stop and see if he would initiate a conversation, and we never spoke again. I have friends like that and friends that make all the effort with me. I guess it's best if it's 50/50, but I've never had that happen. Big time bullying ordeal. She cyberbullied me in 2001 via email. My parents found out and sent me to private school to remove me from the situation. Then she just spread rumors about me at her new school and how I got my parents to fight for me. I'm still not sure what caused her to start sending nasty emails, but if I were to ever see her again, her and she was pleasant, I'd totally grab a coffee to catch up. Adolescence is rough. I didn't realize how controlling she was. The friendship fell apart when we went traveling together in our late teens. She hated it and went home after a few months, but I stayed for 2 years. When I came back, it went downhill very quickly. I'd learned to say no, have boundaries and have other friends. She hated that and stopped talking to me. It's been 10 years and she still occasionally messages me, saying sorry and wanting to reconcile. I did the first few times, but the friendship always went back to her trying to control me and blowing up when I refused to comply. I have to just ignore her messages now. We lived together my senior year of college. Was pretty fun, actually, but we were planning on resigning the lease and she bailed on me the day before it happened. So, I was stuck looking for a place to live in a month's time in a college town, where people, typically, sign leases a year in advance due to demand. Her excuse was that it was too expensive to live in that city, but I found out that she had decided to move in with her boyfriend of 3 months across state. I figured anyone willing to put their best friend into potential homelessness over some random dude she met on Tinder 3 months ago is probably not a good friend. Cut her off cold turkey. I still think about her every once in a while and wish her the best, but yeah, try not to frick over your best friends for dong. He got a girlfriend who treated me like crap and he refused to do anything about it. That alone showed me how much he cared. What's worse is that said girlfriend stalks my Reddit. Don't know what she's gaining out of it. I hope she reads this. I'm not sure what happened, but it's a shame when friendships fall apart. Sometimes people grow apart and drift apart and there's nothing anyone can do about it. But sometimes people deliberately end friendships, and that's a really sad thing. I hope you can patch things up if that's what you want. You see this as you get older, but most of you drift apart. Here's a list of what is usually the case. Some move away, job, family, college, military, etc. Some refuse to grow up while you do. Some become addicts. Some get so busy starting a family they just don't have time or energy. Some die early. Massive arguments split you apart. Some were actually dongs or bums the whole time, but you don't notice until you're older. Depression really tears people apart. Some get into different hobbies. The most common and simple though, you both just don't have enough time in your adult life. Drifted apart because we moved away. Fast FWD to 2014. Met a new gym member who had the same last name as her, had a similar smile and asked if there was any way he knew of or was related to her. Turned out he was her brother and she passed away when she was 26. No clue. I'd love to know the answer. We were best friends from age 5 till 21. I was at her wedding. All was good. After that I never spoke to her again. I tried but she never answered. Even her parents and brother and sister have no clue why. Hopefully it's not her spouse trying to control who she talks or interacts with. Depends on whether it's just you or if she's ceased communication with others as well, I guess. Might be worth keeping one eye on it in case it turns out she is in an abusive or controlling marriage. Moved away. I made new friends. Went through a really bad battle with depression. Isolated myself. No longer in contact with pretty much anyone I knew as a teen or younger. The end. This is basically me, except I didn't move. I loved her romantically and she didn't love me that way. I had known this for years through high school and after, but I didn't have the strength or self-esteem at the time to face the problem head on. came to a head at my 21st birthday. She wound up taking someone home who wouldn't treat her well, and although I obviously don't blame her for doing that, since she didn't know I felt this way about her, it really just cemented in my mind that this friendship was not healthy for me and would never be healthy. I made the decision to let her know I needed to see her soon after, explaining the situation, and saying that she meant the world to me but we couldn't see each other anymore because it was too hard for me. She was reasonably good about it. It was sad for both of us. It was one of the hardest things I've done in my life and I still think about her all the time, but it was the right choice. I don't ever plan to reconnect with her because I know without a doubt that nothing would be different. She found new friends who didn't like tattoos the way I did. She didn't respond to my messages for months, then told me she had been busy, but I could see she was active online all those time. I stopped trying after that, and when my birthday came, she messaged me saying, "Seriously? You unfriended me? You really have to hurt my feelings this way? I was going to greet you well." I left her on read. We were completely inseparable through middle and high school and had always planned to stay together through college. She didn't get into my choice schools, so, being an extremely dumb and anxious teenager, I foolishly agreed to attend a second-rate school with her instead, as not to be alone. Shortly before the start of our freshman year of college, she informed me she was no longer going to school with me and was instead moving to NYC to live with a guy she met on the internet. She'd known this for months but neglected to tell me until it was too late to do anything about it. I bailed on my best friend James because he was not cool enough and did not smoke any weed like my new friends. Today he's working for NASA and putting his success aside, I just feel bad for bailing on my childhood friend for people who today don't care about me, but that's life, I guess. Dude first got together with one of our best friend's ex, like 2 days after they broke up. Probably broke up because of him. They dated for a good 2-3 years. We didn't really hang out with him for like a year, but after that it was all back to normal. We kinda forgave him. They broke up and the guy told us he really wanted to get back into our friend group, so we invited him to a bunch of places and stuff. Then he got together with one of my ex-GFs of like 2 years. Never talked to him since. Grade A butthole. I lent them a $1,000 to get out of a gambling debt and then they up and moved across the country. They stayed in contact at first and said they'd pay me back soon and eventually stopped responding to me entirely and just started their new life. Pretty crazy for someone who was your best friend for so many years to sacrifice your relationship over money. Ouch, that stinks. Take care, internet stranger. We grew apart. I think that's what happened when you get older. You love video games, going out and hanging around town, doing stupid crap and being kids. Then you wake up one day and that stuff isn't for you anymore. You try more adult things like going to restaurants and having teas or coffee to talk about things, and well, the fun is no longer there. Then they have a job and have to pay bills. You do the same. They move or start a family and time just gets away from you. Doesn't mean you still don't love them to bits. It's just a case of, well, they have more important things to do than hang out with a dude they used to get stoned under the bleachers with. The stoned under the bleachers friends are the best ones though. We were friends into adulthood. I came home from Iraq for 2 weeks before going back and invited him to a BBQ. He didn't show up. That was it. His loss. A big orange butthole told people that it was okay to be their worst self, and my 2 best friends heeded the call of ignorance. I've cut off a friend who was perfectly okay with 1/6 and tried to throw out BLM protests as a comparison. Sorry, no, bye. Kinda sad. At around 15 his younger brother shot up in height to about 5 feet 9 inches. Everybody got to average height. My friend stayed around 5 feet 2 inches. He'd drink loads of milk and eat all sorts of stuff hoping he'd grow. He didn't. So he went off to college, and after freshman year he came back so bitter and angry at the world. Total contrarian for no reason. Always complaining. Terribly insecure and angry. Small man syndrome writ. He was impossible to be around 22-23 we started growing apart. He got married and his wife ended up leaving him. Bumped into him 10-15 years later at a bar. He was exactly the same. I guess the moral of the story is that people just grow apart. We branch out into different lives and that is normal. Childhood friendship is a romanticized notion because people want that innocent stage of life back, but you gotta let it go. I was in a girl group and a couple the girls were my friends since first grade. In junior high they thought the guy that one of the other girls liked me and they all cut me off, even though I had a huge crush on a totally different person. You start to make new friends and realize you put up with crap you assumed all friends did. You realize they were always laughing at you and not with you. She became obsessed with fashion, makeup and girls stuff. I became a tomboy. Yes, nowadays I do wear dresses and such. I have hair that goes down to my pants. But back then, I wasn't enough of a girly girl for her to want to be seen with me anymore. I moved about 12 more times after meeting them and we drifted apart. They married, had kids, I studied and just finished uni. Oh well. Like many kids of the 70s and 80s, there was no tech to stay connected like there is today. Once we went away to college, we'd cross paths every so often until his parents sold their home and moved away. We were briefly friends on Facebook until he deactivated his account. Ironically, I'm in touch with his older brother. In fairness, they don't have much contact either. I don't take it personally. I think he wanted to unplug from the past for whatever reason. We grew into completely different people. Life sort of drifted us apart during school times. My family moved around a bit but came full circle and I would up finishing school in the district I started in. Childhood best friend was still attending and I was excited to meet back up. He basically acted like he never knew me. Then there was a pretty big local news story that happened regarding his house and property, and I swear the family just went off the deep end. They played the publicity stunt to the absolute max and thrived off being the victims of what happened. She was only 32 and married a 55-year-old man with 3 children aged 5, 3 and 1. He was a very recent widower. His wife died a year earlier in mysterious circumstances on a boating accident. My friend then completely devoted her life to serving him and his children, and over time her personality just changed. She even became an avid Trump supporter. Eventually there was just nothing we had in common anymore. It sucks because I do miss her, but we just don't share the same life values anymore. I'm from a small town in a rural state. There were a few of us gifted kids that could have gone to big schools in California or the East Coast. It was a big deal if someone from our town left to go to college, since college wasn't even all that popular. I went to a tech HS that prepared you for the workforce, not university. I wanted to go to a big school on the East Coast. My best friend was scouted by Caltech and I was so excited for her. She was so good at math to the point I was jealous sometimes. Senior year I applied ED to Boston University and got in. AP scores came in. My friend failed all of her tests except math, while I got 5s on all mine except for a 3 in calc. She was demoralized and refused to apply to any college because of it. I pointed out how she had a great SAT score though and her subject tests were also great. Didn't matter to her. We got into several fights because I knew she had the potential to get into a good school but she didn't want to hear it. Eventually, I gave up and I stopped talking to her because I was mad she threw away her chance to leave our small town. Senior superlatives came around and she was voted most likely to succeed. As petty and childish as I was then, I hated her for that, and we never talked again after graduation. For what it's worth, I have heard from family who still live in the area that she seems happy, so that's good at least. IDK what she does there. I'm pretty happy too since I'm graduating CM Lord from BU in May. Overall, I wish our friendship didn't end like that, but I also think that moving across the country was the right decision for me and I doubt we would have kept touch since I haven't been back there in 3-4 years. Multiple reasons, a different one for each friend. Didn't get along in the first place. I was bullied verbally and was pretty much alone after that. We both moved to different friends groups. I had changed my school and acquired a lot of new friends. One girl was my bestie but she was jealous of my score and hated my mom. My mom is my everything. I'm an introvert and I'd never text someone just to keep in touch. We slowly drifted apart during 8th-9th grade. He wanted to become one of the popular kids and I was at the bottom of the social structure. I have seen him from a distance several times over the years but did not want to bother him. He died at 33 from an undiagnosed medical issue earlier this year. We were into different things and drifted apart. Then he died. It sucks I didn't know much about him in his last couple of years. I said I won't be reaching out to you if you don't feel like maintaining contact with me. If you wish, I'm here and you reach out. Been a year, never heard back. Shortly after George Floyd was killed, my wife made a FB post supporting the call for swift investigation justice. My childhood friend, whom is a cop, turned her post about him and ran his mouth at my wife. I told him to kfo with his strawman fallacies, made a few more personal comments and haven't been in contact with him since. I was unemployed for a whole year. No friend or relative offered to help, to forward my CV or took any interest in my job search. I cut them out. Since then I always try to help anyone searching for a job and offer my connections. We were completely inseparable through middle and high school and had always planned to stay together through college. She didn't get into my choice schools, so, being an extremely dumb and anxious teenager, I foolishly agreed to attend a second-rate school with her instead, as not to be alone. Shortly before the start of our freshman year of college, she informed me she was no longer going to school with me and was instead moving to NYC to live with a guy she met on the internet. She'd known this for months but neglected to tell me until it was too late to do anything about it. I saw this word for word up a bit. We lived together for about 10 months when I moved out of my mum's place, and he was such a crap person to live with that he made me really angry multiple times and we lost touch a bit after that. We still met up a few times over like 5 years or so, and were in touch a little bit, but then he moved further away and we totally lost touch. The last times I messaged him he would give a one-line response and say I'll reply properly soon, but he never did, and now it's been a few years. I moved to a different city. She came to visit me and it turned out she was using me for accommodation so she could hang out with some guys. We fought and after we stopped speaking, mutual friends told me she'd been talking smack about me for years. Still makes me sad. What can you do? Simple. They all moved to different schools. I did get back in contact with one though. It's great having a friend who I've known pretty much as long as I've lived in this country. When I went to college and started dating and had less time for them, they grilled me about it and made me feel like a crappy friend. Then they went off to college, Skyped with me like twice, came to visit once and then stopped texting back, and we haven't seen each other in over 10 years now. They moved in 6th grade, I moved the other direction in 8th. Mom's no longer pushed to visit. Finn. Keep in mind this was late 80, no internet or cell phone, long distance rate supply. I was moved to the other side of the world. I haven't seen her in 12 years. Our moms are still friends from what I heard recently. She also most likely doesn't remember me. I want to see how she's doing just to catch up, but I'm too afraid to ask my mom. He got married to a woman with major control issues, and over time she cut ties with all of his old friends and even certain members of his family. Then they moved out of state to be closer to her friends and family. Friends change with places. School friends till school. College friends till college. But bread remains forever. All hail bread. My best friends are kind of chapters and periods of my life. Still love them all. Catch up like no time has passed when we can see each other. Unfortunately, it's hard to maintain a family and multiple friendships. Chosen family, and I can't wait to wake them up and start playing. The two started dating one another. Then, they progressively stopped doing things with their friends, as they were so enamored with one another. No idea whether they're still together, what they are doing, or anything of the sort. Life happens. Marriage, kids, jobs, location, losing them, so many things. As for me, as I am in my 50s, I just got 2 best friends out of so many I had when I was younger. I call them or they call me whenever it's possible, just to chat, complain, talk 94, anything really. They can ask a favor even if they didn't see me or talk to me for a long time, and I do the same. I guess life passage is like a filter. The more time passes, the less pure real friends you have. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.